Call to order and roll call.
Chair Goss,
Present.
Vice Chair Swap,
Present.
Commissioner McCoy,
Here.
Commissioner Noble,
Here.
Commissioner Sarkeesian,
Here.
Commissioner Sixta, Commissioner Waters.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. All right, the first thing we have is the approval of last month's minutes. This is the regular meeting minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission for March 12th, 2025. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a tie for a second. Can I get a roll call vote?
Chair Goss,
Approved.
Vice Chair Swap,
Approve.
Commissioner McCoy,
Approve.
Commissioner Noble, Commissioner Sarkeesian,
Approve.
Commissioner Sixta, Commissioner Waters.
Approve.
It's been approved.
Thank you. All right, next we have a call to the public. Those wishing to address the commission should fill out request forms in advance. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda, with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no longer than 3 minutes. The commission may not respond to speakers during the call to the public. The commission may direct the staff to study the matter or request the matter be placed on a future agenda. I see no one in the audience, so I will open it and close it. Next, we have action items, and we just have one item today. This is the GP 25-0001, the minor general plan amendment to amend the acreage thresholds for minor and major general plan amendments and clarify the timeframe in which a general plan amendment shall be heard by the council. Do we have a presentation? Thank you.
Get this set up here. Oh, I think I did this backwards. My apologies. Share. There we go. That looks correct now. Well, good evening, Chair Goss and Commissioners. Before you this evening is a proposed general plan text amendment for a change in the acreage threshold for minor and major minor and major amendments, along with clarifying the time frame for hearing the amendment applications. This is zoning case GP 25-0001. In November of '24, voters ratified the city's general plan 2040. The previous general plan did not contain an implementation plan within it, and it was believed at the time that the consultant and the team working on the 2040 plan was unaware that there was an implementation plan existing within the municipal code. As the 2040 plan came forward, was adopted and then ratified, it then created an implementation plan within that document that created a conflict with the municipal code. The goal with this amendment is to align the general plan with the municipal code and allow that to be the sole source, the general plan to be the sole source document. At the January 7th meeting, City Council directed staff to bring back a city-initiated general plan text amendment to change the acreage threshold to 320 acres. Staff is also recommending additional amendments to clarify the timeframe for general plan amendment applications to be heard by City Council. Staff does recommend the amendment be recommended to City Council for approval. The amendment before you this evening specifically amends the acreage threshold that requires a general plan amendment from 40 acres to 320 acres for residential property that is changing to another residential land use, and for 60 acres to 320 acres for residential property that is changing to a non-residential land use. Additionally, it requires that the general plan amendments be presented to City Council within 12 months of the date of an application. The minor text changes will align the general plan and the municipal code for clarification and readability. As you may see here in the chart, not only is it defined as changing the non-residential classification to be commercial, but also adding in open space for that readability and clarification and understanding. The proposed amendments remove the restrictive acreage thresholds and implements new thresholds that encourage additional commercial and residential development, clarifying the time frame within the general plan and stating that applications are to be heard by City Council within 12 months, aids with expediting the development process. Previously, the general plan stated that these amendments would be heard, major amendments would be heard once per year, which could indicate that an application would take longer than 12 months to be heard. And it will facilitate the timely implementation of the 2040 general plan. A neighborhood meeting was hosted on April 2nd, and a notice regarding this request was posted in the Kingman Miner on March 19th in accordance with state statute. No agency or other public comments have been received regarding this item. Based on the findings and analysis presented, staff does recommend that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to City Council GP 250001 for approval. With that, be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Heather. Does anyone have any questions for Heather?
Chair Goss, I do have a question. Why did we pick 320 as the acreage? Was there a study done or something to indicate that that was, a half section is the amount of acreage we should be using in this case?
Thank you, Commissioner Goss and Chairman Waters. There was extensive conversation at the January 7th council meeting regarding that option. Director Jason proposed several options based on review of other cities, looking at the county and its acreage, which I believe is 1,800, looked at cities like Lake Havasu, looked at cities like Prescott, other rural communities, and the options that they had. Also looking at, I believe you looked at Surprise as well, in a more urban environment. The conversation was between, do we go to 640, a full section, 320, a half section, and ultimately the council was able to land on an agreement of 320 acres in their discussion.
Was there any metrics used to I understand they just kind of toss some numbers around, but was there a reason for choosing 320?
I'm not as familiar as Jason might be.
Chair Goss, Chairman Waters, with respect to the general plan amendments, the acreages ranged across the valley when you look at anything from being a rural environment versus a suburban environment. Most of the rural communities were at either a full section or a half section, which was the 320 acres. So keeping with that, it made sense based on the development that we're seeing or potential future development here within the city of Kingman. Major general plan amendments typically would fall into that line with a larger acreage being proposed. That's where you end up with your master plan communities and so forth. Anything less than that really it would fall under the minor. And so from a metric standpoint, it really is just looking at the rural agencies.
Got it. Now, was there any metrics on how many parcels that fit within that, 40 through 319 acre range that would suddenly fall from being a minor to from a major to a minor?
Chair Goss and Chairman Waters, no, there was no specific looking at acreages within the city that we have currently or any of those half sections, looking at the parcels that may be applicable to that. Again, this is typically, if I were to look at a few of the potential developments that are forthcoming, they fall right at that 320 acre mark.
Got it. You're referring to Rattlesnake Wash, I believe.
That's correct.
Thank you. Chair Goss, I have another question too. Was there any attempt to look at, like, instead of basing this on acreage, perhaps basing it more on the amount of density that changed? Like, say if it's doubling the density, then we take a closer look at this rather than just looking at a single threshold. It just seems like it's kind of an arbitrary thing, like how big this thing is. Obviously, a lot of us on this commission are probably concerned about like huge cookie cutter subdivisions, you know? Like maybe if the proposed oversight for some sort of a change would result in like a doubling or tripling of density in an area, that could trigger a closer look by us. Again, being a commissioner, I'm kind of concerned that maybe we lose some oversight, you know, some input.
Chair Goss, Commissioner Waters, completely understand where you're coming from with that, from that respect. When we're looking at density, we were looking at actually keeping in line with what the voters ratified, which was the acreage threshold. So we did not look at density. We looked at the acreages in accordance to what the voters voted for back in November.
Thank you. I believe that's all I have for right now, but thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Okay, thanks so much, Heather.
Chair Goss, Commissioner Waters, if I could add one additional thing. The general plan, although it sets a density range, your density would come into play when we're looking at a rezone. That rezone would have to be consistent with the underlying general plan designation. So if they were to come in with a major amendment to the general plan, it would still be followed with a rezone that would have to go forward before both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council. So from a discretionary standpoint, a legislative standpoint, the rezone is what would establish the density.
Thank you. Chair Goss, just like we're making the threshold here, and the it seems like it's introducing the opportunity for like a developer to suddenly create two different subdivisions of like say 200 acre, you know, stack them right on top of each other, give them a different name, you know, the villas at whatever, and get around it easier. Whereas before we were looking a little more closely at this, you know. I mean, we're not looking at the aesthetics to know close enough to know if these are in fact different subdivisions. It seems like they're just going to be two different projects with probably the same name. I just see some issues with increasing the size that maybe we're not thinking through.
Chair Goss, Commissioner Waters, I think the misconception might be here is that you're not going to see it at all. You would still see it. You would see a major amendment and a different version. It requires different noticing. It requires a different timeline. A minor amendment still comes before the Planning and Zoning Commission. And again, it would be accompanied with a rezone or a change of zone, so you'd be able to see what type of density would be proposed at that time.
Got it. But okay. There'd be more time that this would allow the city to react. I mean, we're compressing the amount of time the city has to respond to these developments, you know, to give input. And B, you know, if somebody, because we had the limitation on just one time a year to approach the commission and the city council for this, we're in effect allowing people to, you know, approach repeatedly until they get the job done, you know, with duress, because basically it has to be done in 12 months. So it seems like we're throwing another favor to the development community, and I get that. It seems to be what the city wants to do. But I mean, maybe we should probably think about this a little more and provide some metrics as to what benefits our city rather than just hearsay or conversation with the council. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Chair Goss, Commissioner Waters, also with respect to the 12-month timeline, that's actually a legislative requirement. So we're actually implementing legislation that was implemented in 2023 that required cities to process within a year's time frame from the date of application, as opposed to just one time a year. That's what the old code read. That's what the old legislation read. When it changed in 23, it allowed for that time clock to start from the date of application, as opposed to being within a calendar year period.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Okay, how are we doing? Any more questions for staff? No? Okay. All right, then this item actually does require a public hearing, so I will open it up to the public. However, there are no public, so I will now close the public hearing and open it up for commission discussion. Anybody have any discussion, or should we make a motion?
I do have one question. Is this another Scrivener's error? Is that what this is called? No. This isn't a Scrivener's error. This is just something that we didn't catch when they created the target master plan or what have you.
Chair Goss, Commissioner Waters, I think when you look back at when the consultant prepared this general plan document at that time, again, early 2024, the staff that was probably overlooking it or overseeing it probably was not something that they caught. I wouldn't say it's a Scrivener's error. I just think it's a very underestimated number of acres when you have a very rural community.
Okay, and is this, you have a lot more experience in this field than me, but, you know, this is the first time after we've done a general plan. It seems like every other meeting we're having some sort of a change to our plan that we have to ratify. Is that pretty common, that there's a lot of loose ends that get tied up? Or is this just like a major shift in how the city wants to approach development in this, just in your opinion?
Chair Goss and Chairman Waters, with respect to the changes that you're foreseeing, some of the changes that you're seeing are due to us implementing the actual plans, so zoning documents as well as the general plan. We recognize that documents, when they're created by consultants, not everything is caught. You have different staff that's looking at it today. You have staff that is new to the planning field, and as they're going through the zoning documents and the general plan documents, we're seeing inconsistencies between the two, as well as that with the municipal code. So these are cleanups. These are things that, in a global scale, hopefully should have been caught back in, early part of 2024 and amended in the code before it went to the voters in a ratification. But it's not uncommon to, as you're starting to implement these documents, to see where you need to make minor tweaks. You will always see minor changes coming back with documents because development changes how we look at things through the city's eyes, policy changes at the decision maker levels, and the different types of projects that are forthcoming. So you can anticipate to see additional changes forthcoming, more so with the zoning code as well as the subdivision code. And again, we're also adjusting and transitioning as each of the legislative sessions come out and new bills are adopted. We will be continuing to bring back forth changes based on those amendments as well.
All right, and Chair, yeah, I just noticed all the changes are in one direction, it seems like, in favor of the developer, such as, removing our ability to block CUPs, pushing that back to council, this increasing the size that these projects are considered minor. There's been a whole spate of them, and it seems to just be one direction. I'm pleased to see that it's not a Scrivener's error this time because it seemed a little underhanded, but that's just my own opinion. So anyway, thank you.
Certainly.
All right, do we have more discussion or do we want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve EP 250001, minor general plan amendment, to amend the acreage thresholds for minor and major general plan amendments and clarify the time frame in which a general plan amendment shall be heard by the council.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call vote?
Yes, Chair Goss.
Approve.
Vice Chair Swap. Approve. Commissioner McCoy.
Approve.
Commissioner Noble.
Approve.
Commissioner Sarkeesian.
Approve.
Commissioner Sixta. Commissioner Waters.
Approve.
It's been approved.
Thank you. All right, do we have any more reports from staff?
Chair Goss, none tonight.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Next, I just want to open this up to any announcements from commission members. This is liaison reports or availability or attendance at conferences or meetings. Do we have any? No? All right, do we have any requests for future reports and updates from staff? No? All right, then I will adjourn.